Hello, welcome again to the Ref Show. FIFA's refereeing chief says officials should know the game and not just the rules. He says they should have a football mentality. We ask on this show this week, is enough being done on that particular front? And I ask you, is this a cautionable offence? Is it really? We have instances from last weekend's Premier League programme where referees took a different view of that. Meantime, let's hear it for our H squad. No Hackett this week, but we do have Halsey and Hirst. Just as well, both of you guys have a surname beginning with H, otherwise you get nowhere near this.
Where are we going on the alphabet next? So let me guess.
I don't know. Well, H-I-J-K-I. Have we got any I's? I'm not quite sure. Let's dot the I's and cross the T's. We thought that the biggest controversy was going to be, when it happened, I thought, Wayne Rooney getting sent off. Straight red card. We can clear that one out of the way quickly, can't we, Mark? This was in Manchester United 2, West Ham.
Yeah, I think Wayne could have no complaints. I thought Lee Mason done ever so well. It was a great send-off, got everything he deserved. Yes, he was a bit upset by not getting a handball just prior to that, but as I say, no complaints and deserved serious violent conduct.
So striker's backtracking challenge to bring a player down went a bit higher. You never did anything.
I was just going to say, you're asking the wrong person on the backtracking bit there. No, I mean, exactly. I mean, it was a sending off offence. I mean, as an ex-player looking at it, if he'd have clipped the heels rather than the big swing and catching him up on the top of the thigh, he may have got away with a caution. But no, definitely a great call by the ref. Okay, so praise for Lee Mason on that. And in particular, bearing in mind this is a game at Old Trafford and Manchester United have a 2-1 lead, West Ham net in the final seconds, and Sam Allardyce is apoplectic with rage. Offside call, Andy Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think it's a great call. It's a really tough decision, and he was there. Let's give Andy some praise, because I think we gave him a bit of stick a few weeks ago. I mean, Glenn sort of come into when he got an offside wrong. So, I mean, I could never be an assistant. How he got that call was fantastic, and as I say, it was a fantastic call, and you've got to give him praise for getting that right.
And yet, you know, he's taken some stick for getting it right by people who said, he had to guess from his position. So you can't do right for doing wrong.
No, I think knowing Sam and knowing Kevin Nolan, I think they were just upset on the day, you know, frustration. I think they've got an equaliser, they've gone there, they've played well, deserved the point, and they didn't get it. And I think it's just when they sit down in the office on a Monday, they realise that it was a great shout by Andy Garrett.
Did we not used to have a little shout that it was favour the striker? I mean, because it is a tie call. Well, it is a tie call. Me as a striker, I'd be upset. I haven't got the goal, you know.
It would have been interesting.
But I think he was spot on, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I think he was spot on, but it is an instinctive call and a very tight one at that. So, yeah, fair play again.
But it would have been interesting, David, if he hadn't put the flag up and allowed the goal. What would it all been talking about then? Would they have been saying it was right? Because a lot of people say it should have been allowed, because you're right. Give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker.
Well, exactly. This is what I'm saying. If you do give the benefit, it is a goal, and you know he's struggling from there. But he can explain himself. He's got the split second to give that call, and it is, like I say, such a tight call. He gets it right, but so easily could have gone the other way.
What it does show is how difficult the assistant referee's job is either way on that. So we go on to the two derbies over the weekend, which threw up the biggest talking points really. Liverpool and Everton, one apiece. Martin Atkinson refereeing, and a game full of incident, because I think, the majority view, Mark, is that 2 penalties should have been awarded in that first half, either end.
Yeah, I mean, the Lukaku one was very, very tight, whether the incident took place outside and continued into the box. I mean, the assistant's there, the assistant's got to come in and help Martin, but we don't know what Martin said to him down the headset. But the handball, you look at the handball, I mean, once again, I don't really think that referees know what handball is anymore. And in the laws of the game, it says, you know, a deliberate act of handball. Was your arms in a natural, unnatural position? And I've got to say, I think that was absolutely nailed on handball. And they're the sort of handballs you've got to give. They're the ones that everyone will say, yeah, that's handball. Once again, they come out of a meeting at St George's. All the referees and assistants, they're confused on what handball is anymore. There's no leadership and there's no direction. There's got to be direction in instructing the referees what you're going to give and what you're not going to give.
Well, that was Gareth Barry's handball, David, and actually I think there were 3 yellows or technical yellows committed by Barry. Yeah, he stayed on the field.
He was a lucky lad that day. You know, the handball situation, without a doubt. You know, he's got his arm up in the air. It's not so much ball to hand, but it's just flying into him. He's actually gone to put a big block on. Now he's using his arms as a block. Yeah. That hits your hands. it's handball and it's a penalty.
But also he's making his body bigger, isn't
he?
He's making his body bigger, so that tells you it's handball.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen it many a time in the box when defenders are going closing down, hands behind the back. The foreigners use it a lot. Get your hands behind your back and close it down. Then it can only hit the body. When you start putting your hands up to make everything a lot bigger, then you're asking for trouble.
Was it a goalkeeping save almost?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You run the risk, don't you?
Yeah.
So Martin Atkinson in the middle there, and lots of question marks really, in fairness, about his performance, and yet looking ahead to this coming weekend's fixtures, he's got the biggest game. He's got Arsenal-Chelsea. What do you make of that?
Well, no, there's no surprise there. I mean, you've got a number one referee at this present time, Mark Clattenburg. He's fourth official, and I just can't understand the pointing system, the way they're appointing their officials to these games at the moment. And they're not using their common sense in getting. You want your best referees out. It's like David playing, or being a manager. You want your best 11 out week in, week out. It's exactly the same as a referee. As a referees manager, you want your best referees out week in, week out. The ones that are in form.
That's what managers want. It's not just the referees. The system there saying we want the best referees and officials out there. Managers need that as well. They want to be refereed by the top guys that are going to do a top job. And to give people that are under scrutiny the top games, it becomes I don't know whether it's an in-house thing.
In fairness, a lot of appointments have worked this season, and referees have done a very good job. But another that stood out for the opposite reason this coming weekend, Mark Hayward, who we talked about on this programme last week. Having really had an awkward performance, to say the least, at Hillsborough, Sheffield Wednesday, he's got a fourth official appointment in the Premier League this weekend at Sunderland, I think it is.
I would imagine there's one or two people going to that game that are hoping that the referee doesn't get injured in the first 5 minutes. That's a call that could well happen. He's been under a bit of controversy, and now here you go, could be refereeing in the Premiership for 80 minutes. You never know.
But you look at the appointing system. You look at Mark Clattenburg. Tomorrow he referees Zenit St Petersburg against Monaco. He's good enough to referee the Champions League, but he's not good enough when he comes back to referee in the Premier League. I just don't understand it.
We'll come on to Mark's game in the Premier League last weekend in a moment, but Michael Oliver, to look on the positive side of things now, he took the other big derby last weekend, Arsenal, Tottenham, and by all accounts, you're kind of wrinkling in place a little bit.
I know. Listen, the Tottenham's goal, Chadley, superb advantage, absolutely fantastic advantage by Michael, and he's good at that. To be fair to Michael, he knows when to play, when not to play advantage, and that's any young referee watching is to watch how Michael plays advantage. The only question is, don't hold your arms up so long.
Don't be a supporter.
Don't be a supporter. Then it's like you celebrate when the goal goes in. But the other problem I have is, we spoke about on this show that there's far too many cheap cautions going about in football today, isn't there? And then you look at Chadley, and like you said at the start of the show, I mean, is that a yellow card? No, it's not a yellow card. And one mistimed tackle, and he's off. We've got to come back to managing the game, manage the event, managing the players, and for me that is not a yellow card.
Even though the other argument is it could incite supporters, it's a gesture saying.
He stayed on. The rule is by the police. If on the green bit's yours. If he leaves the green bit and then goes into the crowd, then yes, that's a yellow card. That is inciting the crowd. He didn't leave the green bit. He stayed on the pitch. He's most probably received so much abuse from the Arsenal fans.
I was just going to say, yeah.
And what is wrong? We're in the entertainment business. Fans pay a lot of money to watch football. What is wrong with that? I'm sorry, that's completely wrong.
And where consistency is concerned, in the Mersey derby, Steven Gerrard did exactly the same thing. He wasn't cautioned.
No, he got a caution for an offence after that incident. But yeah, I mean, there you go. Rules for one, rules for another. It's Steven Gerrard at Anfield.
I hope that PGMO have spoken to Mark and say, hey, listen, that's not a yellow card, because we don't want to see that week in, week out.
Well, you're taking character out of the game.
It is.
Like you said, as Mark said, you've got fans shouting abuse onto the pitch. As me as a striker, I'm looking to score a goal, and that hits them back. Now the fact that go on, keep singing and I'll keep scoring, that's how it looked to me. And it upsets everybody then.
Okay. Chelsea 3, Aston Villa 0. Phil Dowd. Crystal Palace 2, Leicester 0. Kevin Stroud. nothing really particularly to follow up. I've got, although there might be one or two little things, but that's good. It's good for the referee when, you know, I'm not asking you particular stuff about it. Hull 2, Manchester City 4. That was Anthony Taylor. I think one incident there, possibly Mangala.
Yeah, Mangala
Yeah.
on the penalty. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a nailed-on penalty. But once again, we talk about cheap cautions. Was it a caution?
Yeah.
Was it a caution? No, it wasn't. Is he cautioned him to justify his decision? He doesn't need to justify his decision because it's a nailed-on penalty.
Right.
Just give the penalty and nothing else. It's just a careless challenge.
Yeah.
It's a careless challenge.
And then we go to Mark Clattenburg's game, which was Southampton 2, QPR 1, and an advantage played there.
Yeah, I mean, as we spoke about Mark, you know, he's our number one referee, no problems at all, had a fantastic game, and, you know, he should be out this weekend. But going back to Keith Stroud, I thought he'd done ever so well, you know, coming back into the Premier League. He got released some years ago, should never have been released because he wasn't managed properly, and it's really pleasing to see Keith Stroud have a really good game at Palace Leicester.
And that's a remarkable story, really, when it's almost tantamount to say a guy leaving the Premier League at 28, 29 and having to drop down a division or two and then suddenly be back in the Premier League again. That's an incredible achievement.
It is, but, you know, it shows the will that he's got. You know, he's took the knocks, he's probably gone away and looked at himself a little bit and bounced straight back, you know, and putting in good performances.
Okay, Sunderland 0, Swansea 0, that was Chris Foy. John Moss was in charge of West Brom and Burnley, and we got that G word coming back following this. Grappling, not punished in the penalty area, but a shirt tugging, etc., pulling. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I referee in the Premier League, there's as David would say, there's an acceptable level that goes on. That all the pros, the managers, they all accept it. But then you cross, there's that line you cross when they've just got hold of them, they're cuddling them, they've got their arms around them, they're pulling them down. I think that's when it stops, and that's when you'll get support when you're giving a penalty.
But that's where the referees have got to make the stand. You know, you've got to get out there, you've got to start giving, whether it be free kicks, penalties, whatever, you know, to start making people aware, pulling the captains in and say, look, next time I'm giving it. Mm-hmm. You know, set your standard out, and that's where we're falling short. We're actually letting it roll too much.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you're right. But as I say, you're going to let a certain amount go. You let it
go.
Yeah. It's a physical game. It's a contact sport.
But that comes back to the referees knowing the game.
Yeah.
You know, understanding the laws of the game. You know, and officiating that way.
That's our big debate to close the show. But just Stoke briefly. Stoke 1, Newcastle 0. The Monday night game. Craig Pawson, who everybody on this show has praised this season. Just one incident perhaps of note there. First half penalty not given. Gouffron's challenge.
I mean, we talk about managing players, young players that come into the Premier League and whatever. I mean, I'm exactly the same with referees. I mean, Craig had a tough game at West Ham Liverpool. He done okay. He done well. And then you put him into another big game, Stoke and Newcastle. Britannia is one of the most hostile grounds you can go to, as you heard last night when he didn't give him a penalty. I just felt that at the moment they're not managing correctly. Yeah. Don't give him that game. You know, don't put him back into the frying pan. Pull him in, pull him out. And I just felt that Craig didn't need that game last night. He didn't need that last night. You know, there was just,
but he would probably have wanted it. You know, because that's the nature of the beast.
We
want to be there at
the
knife edge, don't we?
That's what happened with Keith Stroud.
Yeah.
They give him games, too many games. They didn't pull him in and pull him out at the right time, and that's what you don't want to see with Craig, because Craig's a great young talent. You know, you've got to manage him, David.
Definitely.
Okay, and let's close with what is a yellow card, and is there confusion over exactly what constitutes a yellow card now, and relate that to the comments that were made quite up front in a conference in South America by Massimo Busacca, the FIFA refereeing chief, who spoke at length about the need for referees to feel the temperature of a game and to have a football mentality, a nose for it, and really to know the game. It's the reverse of the old Bill Shankly saying when he said referees know the rules but not the game. Mm-hmm. So first of all, what do you make of those comments from Busacca?
Well, I think he's absolutely spot on. I mean, I think I spoke to you a few weeks ago. Martin O'Neill came out of it. No, sorry, Gordon Strachan, when he said referees know the laws of the game, but they don't know the game of football. And I think he's absolutely spot on. I mean, I've trained at Bolton Wanderers for 12 years and at Bury, and what players do on the training pitch, they take it out with them on match days. So I think it helps with referees going into clubs, training with them, refereeing their training games, train with them, and they get to know what players are all about, and they get to know the game more. I mean, I was fortunate because I played a lot of non-league football, so I was quite fortunate. But it doesn't mean to say that even if footballers come into the game, that they make good referees.
No.
You have to work it, and I think Massimo Busacca is absolutely spot on about referees knowing the game, because we saw it in the World Cup, didn't we? We saw it in the World Cup. A lot of referees took it on board, but some of them struggled. You look at the Spaniard in his league; they just constantly show yellow cards. So the Spaniard, he struggled with that. Mm-hmm. So it's something that comes across a bit difficult for some referees.
Busacca made the point, actually, tellingly, that his World Cup preparation involved getting referee teams into camps, teams' camps, to train with them and observe them.
I think you find out about players, you find out about managers in that environment, and how we as players work as a team to work situations, if you like, that maybe does make it very difficult for the referee. Now, if you've been around that environment and you see these little inserts in training, when you're out on the pitch, you can see situations happening a lot quicker before the actual incident. It might be if he's had a little tackle in training and he's a bit upset that it weren't a free kick and he sets off looking for somebody. As a referee, you can see that.
That's right.
And then you can calm a situation.
So should that happen more here then? Should we see referees go into clubs, or would that create an over-familiarity, do you think, Mark?
Well, no, because
the players they referee.
Well, what you do is, I know League Pro but goes into Bristol Rovers, so you go into the club that you won't referee. Yeah. So, for instance, just talk about Lee Mason. He lives in Bolton. He would never referee Bolton because he lives in Bolton. You get Martin Atkinson lives in Leeds. He will never he will referee Leeds. Chrissy Foy, he lives in St Helens. He will never referee Everton or Liverpool. So send the referees into those clubs that they will never referee. And we're talking about holding offences within the box. In training games, they do exactly the same. The players do exactly the same in the training pitch, what they do out on the pitch.
But you say they're not refereeing though, they're not refereeing Bury or Bristol Rovers or whatever. But how important is it that they do their homework on the Evertons, Liverpools, Arsenals, Tottenhams, that they do referee and that they follow it from a football point of
because
view?
It's pretty much around the game it'll all work pretty much the same. Training is not that much different at either club. And the players are certainly not. That's why they get bought and sold here, there and everywhere. So once you've been in and you've worked at close range with a group of players, you're certainly going to pick up little maybe habits that help you when you go and referee certainly the bigger games.
That's right. And what it will do is bring their awareness much more into the game, what's going on around them, so they'll be more aware of certain players and what
we used to have a situation before the start of the season where you were given the new rules and everything, and it was a stickler. For the first month of the season, the keeper's 5-yard steps and the bouncing of the ball and what have you, back pass, it was picked up and stood on top of. That needs to be done with grappling in the box. It needs to be set an example so we get it out of the game. And the only way you'll do it is by giving punishment, which would be free kicks, penalties.
Yeah. The obvious one.
Yeah. But what is an obvious one?
Well,
if I've got all of you, if that happens to me on the halfway line, that's a free kick.
But it's easier to give it on the halfway.
Well, you'd understand. That's what I'm saying. It's not easier to give it. This is the problem.
Who's committed the first offence?
This is the problem. It's not easier to give it on the centre circle as it is in the penalty box. It's the same scenario.
And I'll have hold of him.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it's different. If I'm behind you, caught the wrong side, and I've got my arms around you like that, and I'm pulling you down, that has got to be a penalty or a free kick. That is absolutely now. Everyone wouldn't question that.
Folks, we're going to finish off with an arm wrestling contest. Thank you ever so much.
He's a bit big at me, so he can win.
Back at loggerheads again.
Absolutely. Mark Halsey, David Hirst, thanks ever so much indeed for a fantastic and very entertaining, whatever it was. Got a red card from over there just now to wind up. Do join us again for the Ref Show next week. Thanks for your company. Bye now. Bye.